I'm constantly hearing from new agents in the industry or agents who are struggling to compete in the industry with those top producers or those top teams. And as a team leader of one of those top teams, I want to share with you some of the hacks that you use or that you can use to beat teams like ours. Now, listen, this isn't something that many, if any, team leaders are doing, but I want to share with you my motivation for doing this video, all right? So we help agents get licensed all across Canada. We've done it hundreds of times here in Southern Alberta and coming up 100 times across Canada, and we're expanding the team into every single province. That's something that you want to talk about, go ahead and reach out, but that's not the point of this video. The point is that we're speaking to agents who are already with our brokerage. We're speaking to agents who are with other brokerages who are just finding the landscape increasingly difficult to compete in because of technology advancement, because of the marketplace, because of how difficult it can be to get buyers and sellers off the fences. And I want to tell you that I'm having these conversations on a daily basis with agents who have been licensed 10, 15 years, but are finding that this particular time, for whatever reason, is just more challenging than ever. And there's also new folks getting into the industry that are fearful about what the economy's like or how they'll be able to compete given all these variables like artificial intelligence, like changing market conditions. And so I want to spend some time with you today, just sharing with you some of the basic things that I'm sharing with agents on the daily to help them compete against teams like the Atkinson team in Southern Alberta and now soon across Canada, or other teams and other top producing agents in their markets. The thing I want you to start with is just understand this, okay? Keep it simple and go deep. The biggest challenge in real estate for any one of us, for you, for me, is the fact that there's an infinite number of possibilities. There's an infinite number of things that any one of us can do that would allow us to be successful if we keep it simple enough, go deep enough, and do it consistently enough. So just remember that, okay? It's not, a particular widget that's going to make you successful. It's going deep, it's being consistent, okay? And it's keeping it simple, all right? So here's what I want you to do first and foremost. Go to your chat, hopefully you've got the paid version, and I want you to query chat about your marketplace specifically, what your experience looks like, and just ask chat to ask you questions that will help it determine some of the best ways for you to compete, given your network of people, given your skills and abilities, given your personality type. By the way, I strongly suggest that you go take an Enneagram test and also a DISC assessment and then load those results. And then it's going to give you some ideas of the things that you can consider. And you can tell it to, give you 25 examples so that you can cherry pick some of those things. Ask it to prioritize those in terms of lowest dollar and highest success rate. It's one of the first things that we do with the new agents on our team when we're going through goal setting and determining, where they want to be in a year to 3 years with our team, knowing how we're going to support them and backing out the math on that using a tool that I've built so that we can assess the stats in their marketplace and the distribution of deals throughout the year so that we can then look at, okay, how many transactions does this person need to close in a given quarter, a given month? And then what activities do they need to do in a given week, anticipating that 60 to 90 day lag to anticipate those deals to show up when they want them to meet those income goals. And we create these very specific strategies within the structure of our organization to allow these agents to be successful. Now, certainly we have a huge database with over 100,000 people in it. We have insane resources for training, AI coaching, and 5 team leaders that are prepared to take phone calls at a moment's notice. I mean, those things can't go without mentioning as being massive value pieces, but as a solo agent, you probably don't need that just yet. If you go through that process with chat, you're going to have some insights into what your gifts are and how they can best be utilized in your marketplace. Now, the beautiful thing you can also do with chat is ask it to build you an action plan, and then just keep diving until you've got yourself your week's plan on whatever those activities are. Now, I'm going to tell you some of my favorites and some of the things that I suggest to every single agent, and this is regardless of how long that they've been in the business. I want to tell you right now, I'm not the kind of coach and I'm not the kind of friend who's going to try to find, the easiest thing, the most comfortable thing for you so that you can coast through real estate and make a bunch of money without having to leave your house. That's bullshit, okay? If you want to make big money in real estate and you want to make a lasting impact in people's lives, you better be prepared to be the person deserving of that success, deserving of that respect. And that requires you to be that person, okay? That means studying the market, again, using chat, watching videos like the one that you're watching right now, listening to podcasts, working on your personal psychology, working on your habits, working on your time management, working on the way that you speak, how you articulate information. All of those things are absolutely critical, okay? But I'm gonna tell you the things that I think make the most difference for every single agent out there, bar none. And I had an example show up for me yesterday, and it's a very personal one. My sister's going through a divorce at the moment, and she sent me a text saying, hey, the realtor's coming on Friday. And this person's a top producer in her marketplace, by the way. The realtor's coming Friday, she said to me, what should I expect? Am I gonna be signing paperwork? What's the commission gonna be? When will the sign go up? When will the showings be, okay? Now, I want you to think about this. This is an intelligent, professional person. She's a nurse, okay? She's raised 2 brilliant kids, okay? And she has a very, very lovely home to sell. But these are questions that everybody's asking. And so what do you think the level of service is for an agent who's producing at a super high level but isn't proactively answering these very obvious questions? What if you just took a little bit of extra effort to prepare people for the stress that they would undoubtedly anticipate in the journey of buying and selling real estate? Because for a lot of people, it is stressful. They don't know, do they need a realtor? They don't know which realtor to trust. And so if you want to be known, liked, and trusted so that you can get hired, so that you can earn referral business, how simple is it for you to just anticipate what questions are going to be and then address them proactively? So here's a process that we use on our team very consistently that has allowed us to build an incredible business where we sell anywhere from 500 to 700 homes a year and growing on repeat, okay? Now, keep in mind, I'm not in production. This is a business that I've been able to leverage out of over the years. I haven't actively sold in maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 years now. And this will work for the newest agents on our team in the newest market that we've just opened. And it'll help them be successful in their first weeks in real estate. So you need to know how impactful this information is. This is not untested, and it's not the kind of thing that only works in one province and not another. This is literally working everywhere. I've coached agents and team leaders and brokers across North America. This stuff works always. Here's what I want you to do. I just want you to sit down and in your own mind, map out the process. Use a piece of paper, whatever tool that you like, and map out the process for a buyer. Map out the process for a seller. And do that for a couple very common avatars: your first-time home buyer, your first-time home seller, an often forgotten about avatar, a retiree, whatever other avatars you think would be suitable in your market for your personality and who you wish to serve. Now, as you're beginning to map out those processes, those steps, could be the first phone call, the first meeting, second meeting, contract signing, photography or showings, agency agreements, offers, negotiations of offers, condition periods, closing out the transaction, post-transaction follow-up. And those are some basics, and you can certainly dive deeper on those. Here's what I want you to do. Just ask yourself this question, or you can use ChatGPT for this. What questions would a consumer in my market reasonably have about the next step, okay? What questions would a consumer have about the next step? And what I want you to do is go ahead and just begin to answer those questions in as simple a format as possible, not complex. You're not aiming to blow their mind here with all the technology that you're using. Wanting to build a process that consistently has you communicating these things to each and every person, no matter if they're your brother or sister, a cousin or uncle, or somebody that you've never met before. 100% of the time, you've got to follow this process. And I'll tell you this, from my own experience, It's more important to follow the process with people who already know you, okay? A lot of times strangers who have hired you are gonna hire you based on your personality and how you've shown up, and they're going to trust that everything else is going to go smoothly. But those people that know you a little bit better, they often ask more questions. And so you have to have that even more ironed out for your sphere of influence. And so what I want you to make the habit of doing once you've got this process mapped out in your mind is at every single juncture. So let's say, for example, we're talking to a first-time home seller and I'm set to go to their place to do an evaluation, okay? So as you know, if you follow me online, my process and the one that I teach my team is to do a deep pre-qualification with every single person on the phone, ideally in the first phone call, but certainly before any sort of face-to-face meeting, using who, what, when, where, how, not why type of questions until you have a full scope understanding of exactly the challenges that they're faced with. Because you have to understand, you can't support someone in a complex journey of real estate sales if you don't truly understand the depths of their challenges and all of the players and variables involved. So until you have a perfectly clear picture, don't stop asking questions. And it's not impolite to do that. In fact, you're showing your professionalism by engaging them in that conversation and by driving that conversation. And so you level up your influence in doing so. And when you've got more influence, you've got stronger ties, better rapport, greater likelihood of successfully navigating the entire process, and more importantly, doing it successfully and earning referral business from them. So in that conversation, okay, where I'm going through and speaking to that first-time home seller, I'm asking who, what, when, where, and how type questions. And then I'm gonna follow some of those up by saying things like, tell me more about that. Tell me more about who, tell me more about what, tell me more about how, just to dive a little bit deeper. And you can also use this one that I love so much. Help me understand this, help me understand that, and just keep going deeper and deeper until you truly get it. When you start to come up against some objections or some challenges, you know, some speed bumps or roadblocks, as we call them on our team, I want you to remember this important question. What would have to change for that to change? Now, it's kind of a complex question. Sometimes you'll have to repeat it, but stick to it. What would have to change for that to change? And a lot of times what people will do is they'll begin problem solving their own objections. Now, asterisks here, what are the things that I want to share with you about managing objections really, really well, super professionally, very successfully in our business, is make people fight for their objections. In general terms, most people object to things because they have a picture in their mind about a problem that they foresee coming down the road, and they'll present it to you as fact, okay? Because they want to appear confident, and that's just part of human nature. And so we don't have to argue with them about whether or not that's indeed a challenge, but we just want to ask them the question, what would have to change for that to change? And have them problem solve their own solution. Now, I want you to move over to what I call the triangle of proximity, which is using an example of another person who's had success using the solution that you're about to propose. And it doesn't have to be somebody that you've worked with personally. It can be somebody else that's, known to you, somebody else at your brokerage, somebody else on your team, a family member, a different example. It doesn't even matter. But that triangle of proximity involves that person who's in the example, the client, and you, okay? And by making it about another person, you depersonalize it and give them an opportunity to observe success that you have facilitated. And that's a really powerful thing for rapport and trust building, right? To be showing them an example of someone who's had success doing the thing that you are going to be suggesting that they're going to do. And then I want you to use this closing statement. Does that sound fair? Does that sound like it would work for you? Does that make sense? Any one of these are going to result in either a yes or no answer. And if the answer is no, just ask them, hey, what parts of that didn't you understand? See, the biggest challenge that I think a lot of agents face is they feel like they've got to have all the answers. You need to have great questions. You need to be a great facilitator of conversations. And in doing so, you're going to become the leader that they need, the influencer that they're looking for, and the person that they can trust to manage this process. And you've got the process mapped out now, don't forget. And so what I want you to say once you've gotten to the point where they're in agreement that that's a good solution for them is don't ask them if they would like that. Just assume the close. If they like the idea and you've vetted and qualified them and you understand what it is that they're looking for, just go ahead and tell them. You know what? Why don't we do this? I'm going to be in your neighborhood on Saturday. I've got some time either at 2 before an open house or at 5 after, where I could just pop by with a coffee, have a quick conversation with you about your property, talk to you about the details of the process. And even if you don't plan on doing something this year, at least you've got the answers that you need. So which one would work best for you, 2 or sit? See how easy I'm making that? I'm approaching it very confidently. You see, if I approach it tentatively or with hesitation, they're going to read that like they should be hesitant or they should be tentative and they shouldn't be doing this, okay? So I want to confidently step into this space, give them the truth and the impression that yes, I can indeed manage this for you. So which one of those 2 times would you like to meet? If they say, oh, do you know what? I'm not so sure, blah, blah, blah. Again, what would have to change for that to change, right? Just go back to that question. It's a great question. Now, once you've got them settled on a time, here's the process thing that I want to share with you, okay? Fantastic. Looking forward to meeting you, Jonathan, at 123 Main Street, Saturday at 2 o'clock. Just a reminder, I'd like to make sure that all decision makers are there. You mentioned that Cindy would be there as well, Jonathan, so I want to say thanks for that. Hey, Jonathan, if for some reason Cindy can't make it, just let me know and we can reschedule. It's really important that you're both there at the same time. Oh, by the way, Jonathan, what's Cindy's phone number? Notice how I didn't ask permission to ask for her phone number. I need her phone number. I'm not trusting Jonathan to communicate with Cindy. I'm going to be in charge of that. He's going to give it to me. That works 95% of the time. I can't even remember objections to that question. Okay. Fantastic, Jonathan. So I'll text all this to you and I'll actually send it to you in a video format as well, both for you and Cindy. But here's what I'd like you to do in preparation for our meeting. And I know that this is the first time that you'll be selling a home, so I want to make sure I do a great job in getting you all the answers that you need, Jonathan, and ensuring that you're comfortable throughout the process. Listen, I'm not bringing any paperwork with me. I couldn't get you started listening even if I wanted to, but I do want to just make sure you've got some preliminary answers in a very low pressure type of environment. So I just ask you to have your most recent tax assessment handy. I'd like you to have a list of the 3 things that had you and Cindy most excited to buy this property when you bought it 4 years ago, okay? I'd also like you to have available at your fingertips, please, the most recent tax assessment for the property as well. You think you could have those things ready for me, Jonathan? Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Appreciate that, Jonathan. Just a couple more things. I want to give you an idea of the layout of our meeting, okay? So Jonathan, you know, I'll come to your door. I'll be there promptly at that time. We'll go have a seat at the kitchen table. And we're just gonna go through some of these questions again with Cindy there, just make sure that we haven't missed anything. I wanna make sure that I've got all these variables looked after. And then with your permission, what I'll do is just have you look through my listing presentation at the table. And I'd like to take a private tour through your property. That'll just give me a chance to quickly go through and take some photos for reference. They won't go anywhere, they'll stay with me for my own personal reference so that I can remember the details of the property when I'm doing your evaluation. Then I'll come back to the kitchen table, we'll sit down and I'll likely have some questions for you. And we'll do a bit of talking about what we think the next steps are going to look like. And I know that you're planning on buying a property in that neighborhood over there. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the process. We'll have a conversation about how we manage selling a property and helping you buy a property, how we time those things to make sure that you're never gonna wind up homeless. We'll talk about things like deposits and the cost of doing property inspections and the conversations that you'll need to have with your mortgage broker. Which reminds me, Jonathan, have you had that conversation yet about getting pre-approved for the next property? No, okay. Jonathan, I'll arrange for that. We've got somebody great that we work with in-house, so I'll have somebody reach out to confirm that with you. Again, that's totally private between you and them, but I just wanna make sure I'm doing my due diligence and making the best service possible. And in some cases, that's saving people like $15,000, $20,000 alone, to say nothing of the service and representation that we offer our clients. So is that all sounding good, Jonathan, as an approach for our first meeting? Okay, fantastic, Jonathan. Listen, really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for chatting with me. I'm looking forward to meeting with you and Cindy at your place, 123 Main Street, Saturday at 2 o'clock. Look for my video. It'll be in your texts here over the next half hour. Thanks, Jonathan. Take good care. I can't tell you how simple it is to do that, okay? You just need a roadmap and the anticipation of what the next step is and an understanding of what their questions are going to be. And when you can take the stress out of that next meeting for people and help them feel comfortable and safe with you, all of a sudden, if they're interviewing other agents, they're canceling those appointments because nobody's comparing to you at all. These are things that do not cost you a single dollar. But when you have these conversations with people, they'll be prepared to pay you more dollars because you clearly have a plan. You see, most agents approach selling a piece of real estate like it's the first time they've done it every single time. They don't have a process. They don't have anything consistent that they're doing, so they can't communicate those things. What I want you to do is build that plan, map it out, understand it, anticipate those questions, and answer them before they are asked. Answer the questions before they are asked. You elevate your authority, you elevate your influence, you create greater stickiness in the relationships that you're working with, and you're gonna have much smoother transactions. You'll have much deeper trust, and so should you need to have a conversation about a price reduction or some other change that needs to happen that might otherwise have been stressful, now your client's taking your advice much more readily because of all the preparation and care that's gone into process that you have for them. They feel cared for, they feel wrapped in the warm blanket of your process, and when you make these other suggestions, they go so much more easily. The transactions close smoother, there's less animosity with the buyers coming along with lowball offers and so forth. You're maintaining your professionalism, you're navigating that process just as well, because again, you understand the steps, you're preparing them for the variables. And then naturally what's happening is their anxiety is quelled so dramatically, and they feel so good about the process. It's gone so smoothly and so seamlessly that they can't help but refer business your way. And so when I hear agents talk about there being a shortage of leads, I've seen agents on our team not succeed, okay? And the reason why is because they haven't followed this plan. You can fail with 110,000 leads in your database if you don't follow these simple steps, because it's hard to earn people's trust. If you do some of these simple things like I've just shared with you consistently, it'll happen for you on repeat automatically, and it'll just become part of you without even thinking about it. I'm going to be getting back to you with lots more tips like this to help you compete against big teams with great processes, things that you can do yourself with $0 so that you can be infinitely resourceful and of massive value to the folks that you're serving. So if you like this content, do go ahead, like it, subscribe, and I'll be dropping lots more just like this, okay? Take good care. This is Coach Court.